Hello, class. Today, as we get started, I want to make sure everyone knows that the PowerPoint slide that I'm going to be going through today, I will post along with this video. So if you happen to catch it in that small little time frame that I posted this, but not the PowerPoint, don't worry. It'll be posted probably any second or any minute. But for today, we are going to go over a few different things. Let me share my screen real quick. So we are going to be going over laws and citizen participation. And the first part of that, going over laws, is really about adding on top of what we've already learned yesterday. So if you remember, what we learned yesterday was all about how a bill becomes a law. And we went really, really in detail with what that process looks like. But now we're going to kind of zoom back a little bit and create the 5 steps that I want you to learn. That kind of makes it easier to remember quickly of that process of a bill becoming a law, because if we go too deep, it can kind of get convoluted and easy to mix up and easy to forget. So I really want to focus on you guys learning those 5 big steps. So then whenever it comes time for a test, you guys know exactly what is expected for you to know. And then that will move into our second half of class today, which is all about citizen participation. And that will move into our homework assignment, which I'll get into more at the end of class. But for today, let us start with the standards. So the standards for today, if you want to take a look at this, you can, but just so your eyes can always see it, I'm not going to spend too much time here, but here are the state standards that we're going to be hitting on today. And we hit on some yesterday with the bill becoming a law as well. So you can go back and check that out if you want to. And then the daily objective, this is the big thing that I really want you to focus on. And this is that all of you guys will be able to describe the 5 basic steps for how a bill becomes a law, which is what I mentioned, kind of making it a broader reality rather than memorizing such an in-depth process. So you're going to be able to describe the 5 basic steps, and then you'll also be able to show and explain 2 ways people are allowed or expected to participate in the political process, which we'll get into the difference between ways that we're expected to participate and then ways that we're allowed to. There's some that you're like, it's not a choice. That's just something you have to do. Others that you kind of get that choice, but pros and cons of doing it, not doing it, we'll get into that. So next, this is the chart you saw at the end of class yesterday. These are kind of the big 5 steps, but we'll put them into our own words. And you can see this flyer. I'm going to actually print it out and post it in my classroom. So when you guys are able to come into my classroom, you guys can see this. It's an easy way to remember it. Number 1, every law starts off with an idea. This is as simple as something popping up in the brains or the brain of one person anywhere in government, not in government. It could pop up in your brain and you can go meet with someone in the House of Representatives. It's just an idea. This idea can literally be from anywhere, anytime. It just needs to be an idea. And then once that idea is either already in the brain of someone in the Senate or the House of Representatives, or if we had an idea and we took it to the House of Representatives, that bill is then introduced. So idea, and then it's introduced. Then it goes to a committee. There's debates and votes and presidential action. So these are the 4 or 5 things that I want you to write down that will be easy to remember. As you can see in green, I added a little bit extra, but overall, these are the big things that I want you to remember in black. If you can remember the green as well, that will help you during test time. But number 1, idea. Number 2, introduction. Number 3, committee. And this committee can be in the Senate or the House of Representatives, whoever introduced the idea. Debate and vote. And remember, if one house passes it, those 4 steps have to happen again in the other house. So technically you could say there's 9 because there's 4 and 4 and then presidential action. So 4 plus 4 is 8 plus presidential action, 9 steps, but we're keeping it to 5 because the first 4 literally just redo once they get to the other house. So once they debate and vote, it moves to the other house. And if both houses agree, that can move into presidential action. So go ahead, and if you haven't already, in your notebooks or on your computer, make sure that you get this typed out, because this is what I will, at the very minimum, expect you to know and say back to me. Okay. Next, we're going to go into participation. So if you haven't already, make sure that you log into the class portal, and you will see a class discussion link on the calendar for that portal, which is what you will participate for this class with other students. And I'll get more into that, but you're going to be specifically talking about participation and what participation looks like for citizens. So, sorry, I have an alarm on my phone that keeps going off, and I don't want it to interrupt you. Okay, I'm so sorry about that. Participation, these are some examples that we can participate as citizens, sometimes even non-citizens in the United States. First and foremost, obeying laws. That is a big, big thing, that laws don't mean much if we don't obey them. So that's one simple way that we can obey laws and participate in the political process. Next is our freedom of speech. This may seem kind of obvious or weird, depending on how you're thinking, but this is a huge way that we participate in the political spectrum, in the political world. This is with us gathering. This could be your religious gathering, or it could be a demonstration or a peaceful protest, expressing yourself, saying stuff, newspapers, magazines, the list goes on and on, but we have the freedom to do that, which can affect the political sphere. So that's one thing that we will always have the opportunity to participate in that way. Next is specifically for citizens, being able to vote in elections. If there's an election in your state or your county or the presidential election, this is one of the biggest ways that we can affect the world around us, is by voting for the people who participate in our government. Next is serving on a jury. This might sound exciting for you at your age, or you might hear your parents complain about it and you don't look forward to this at all. But this is actually a very important thing. This is one of those things that, how it's designed, we have to participate in it. Otherwise, the design of it kind of falls apart. In order for people to truly have say, serving on a jury keeps power with the people, because you have that power as a jury member to decide if people are guilty or innocent. And it kind of keeps that idea of democracy alive. And then lastly, running for office. If you ever want to run for mayor or governor or House of Representatives, Senate, president, and there's a list, giant, that's like all the big name things that you can run for. But there's a ton of other committees and boards that you could run for. And that's how you can participate in government as well. So if you haven't already, click on that discussion link. And I want you to go through and, we'll get to that. I want you to go through and post 2 things that you think are the most important to how we can participate in the political world. And this can be from these 5. It can be something that you're thinking of that I didn't list here. I would actually encourage, if you can think of something that I didn't list here, try to do that. I want to see what your brains can come up with. If anything, just use one of mine right here and try to think of one of your own. And you're going to post those 2 things, and remember to try to use complete sentences, proper grammar. And then after that, you're going to go back and reply to 3 of your peers. And don't just reply for the sake of replying. I actually want you to try to find people who posted something that's different than yours and try to, in a very formal way, you're not trying to be mean, but you want to get them to your side. Why do you think your ways of participating are more important than their ways of participating? It doesn't have to be long, just a few sentences, but try to challenge some people's ideas. And like I said, this is all about doing it properly. We're not trying to be mean here. So you're going to post one post that has 2 things, 2 ways that we can participate in government. And then you're going to respond to 3 classmates trying to challenge them why your ways are more important than their ways. And it's okay if someone has a great idea of why their ways are better. That's fine. You can change your mind. You can be like, wow, she made a really good point, or he really made a good point. That's completely okay. But remember, good spelling, good grammar, and good complete sentences. So after that, that's kind of your assignment for today. And then continue to study the 5 steps in order for you to know that for our test. And then finally, I want to go over a quick example of what kind of the bigger project is that you're going to be doing for the remainder of the week. And you're going to be presenting at the end of the week, just 2 to 3 minute presentation. It's really not a big deal, but I want you to build and practice doing this, because this is something, public speaking is something that is so important for you guys to learn. And it's something that even at a young age, it is worth knowing how to do, knowing how to build a PowerPoint, knowing how to present, getting comfortable talking about these things in front of other people. So I want you to build, you can either do Google Slides or PowerPoint. Either one is fine with me. And you're going to do the 2 things that we literally just did in class today. So first things first, you're going to list out the 5 steps, but do so in a creative, fun way. You can kind of be funny with how the 5 steps of a bill becoming a law. Don't just do the 1 idea, 2, what was it? Don't just do this. 1 idea, 2 introduction, 3 committee, 4 debate. Don't do that. Be a little bit more creative with it. I'll show you what I did. And then the second thing on the second slide, you will go over your 2 most important things that you said in the debate. And this is your chance, if someone in the comments made you think and you actually want to change your 2 most important ways to participate in government or participate in the political process. If you want to change that, that's okay. This is your chance to change it. And then you'll give a 2 to 3 minute long presentation going over these slides. So it's not very long, 2 minutes, 2 slides. You got this. So this is an example from what I'm kind of expecting, that here's the 5 steps, and I did a little bit differently, where just kind of spicing it up a little bit. There's an idea, for example, in the Senate. And then we have to introduce this idea to the rest of the Senate the next meeting. Number 3, a committee gets to work out the idea into a formal presentation, usually a stack of paper that they're writing. If most people in the Senate like the idea, they'll be like, hey, you, and you, you're going to be a committee, go figure out the logistics of this idea. And then 4, the Senate will present this formal idea. They're going to debate, they're going to disagree and get annoyed and change it and agree and disagree again, until finally they're going to come to an agreement and they're like, that's awesome. That's a great plan. Now let's send it over to the House of Representatives. And it's going to happen all over again. And then once they all agree, it goes to the president and he can sign it, veto it, or do nothing. So that's kind of a super simple way. I would actually, if you can think of a really creative way to present these 5 steps, I will gladly give some little extra credit points. Try to be fun, try to be creative with it. And then the second slide is, how should we participate? This is where you're not only going to give your opinion, you're going to try to tell us in your presentation why this is so important. So let your voice be heard. This is the freedom of speech, but don't hurt anyone. There's that balance with letting your voice be heard and hurting people. We never want that to happen. And then secondly, serve on a jury. The system only works if we are willing to participate. If we're not willing to participate in the system that's designed, it's going to fall apart. So a very important thing is to serve on a jury. So those are my 2 example slides that I'd love to see. Here's the little instructions for you if you need to do a little screenshot to remind yourself of what's expected. 2 to 3 minutes, 2 slides, 5 steps, and 2 important ways, and then 2-minute presentation again. Email me with any questions. Please, please, please email me with any questions you have, and I will get back to you as quickly as I possibly can with this. There are a few of you in class, and you know who you are. I try to keep you updated through email as much as I possibly can. That there might be some adaptations for how you go about this project. Don't worry, I'll have specific instructions for you coming your way. For the rest of the class, that is it. I hope you continue to study for the tests. Make sure you know your 5 steps, how bills become laws, and then really be sure to get creative and dive into all of this with how we participate in the political process. Don't forget to do that discussion. The discussion is 2 things and then responding to 3 classmates. Okay, thank you for being here. And once again, email me if you have any questions. See you next class.